Some facts come out of left field, especially the surprising facts in this video. After all, it is about left-handed people. We're taking a deep dive into the world of lefties, so prepare to give us a thumbs up with whatever hand you want to use. On this journey, there are only left turns. Alright, they're all left. I'm Mike with List 25, and here are 25 lesser-known facts about left-handedness. 25. Premature babies. Are premature babies more likely to be left-handed? A study from 2020 suggested that could be the case. Building on ideas contained in research by neuropsychologist Paul Satz, it explored the idea of left and right-handedness, as well as ambidextrous people. The study was also based on input from 179 school children who were born as premature babies. The results the team came back with were fascinating. While the majority of the children were right-handed, 19.6% used their left hand, and 3.4% were ambidextrous. Other factors taken into account include stress during pregnancy or a traumatic birth. While not conclusive, this study gives a glimpse into the mysteries of left-handedness and how things happening in the womb play a role. 24. Athletes. The simple act of squeezing a ball in the left hand could improve a right-handed athlete's performance. As reported in 2013, right-handers can use their left hand to boost the right-hand side of their body. How does that work? Well, when you use your left hand, you're stimulating your right cerebral hemisphere. That's the part of the brain that's responsible for intuition, among other things. When playing a game, you often need to think fast, and research suggests squeezing the ball helps your mental processes, helping you operate better under pressure. So, even if an athlete is right-handed, their left is super useful too. 23. Wedding finger. Where do we get the tradition of wearing a wedding ring on your left hand? Well, you have to go all the way back to ancient Rome to answer that question. They believed there was a vena amoris, or vein of love, that formed a link between your finger and your heart. Specifically, the 1, 2, 3, 4th finger on the left hand. Interestingly, left-handedness was seen as unlucky by many in Roman society. However, this rule was broken for marriage, where they regarded it as lucky. The idea of a left-handed wedding ring is romantic, but not scientific. Truth is, there are veins in all of our fingers that are connected to the heart. It's nothing special, but people like to symbolize their love in this old-fashioned way. 22. Right-handed wrong. Before we became more enlightened about child psychology, left-handed kids were forced to use their right hand. It was commonplace for educators to punish young lefties, even going so far as to tether the offending hand, or worse, hitting them on the knuckles if they tried to use their left side. Thankfully, this approach is largely a thing of the past, and good riddance. It caused low self-esteem, anxiety, and conditions such as stuttering. And for what? Studies have shown that these practices had a significant physical and psychological impact on children who were just there to learn, not endure corporal punishment because of the way they were born. 21. Ambisinister. Some people are good with their right hand, and some are good with their left. Of course, some don't work well with either hand, leading to insults like butterfingers and two left hands. Such individuals are classified as ambisinister, as in the opposite of ambidextrous. This is a Latin adjective, and while it sounds official, it's no better than some of the rude language we just heard. Amba translates to both, while sinister is a word that we're all familiar with. Well, at least in English. However, when you look at the Latin version, sinister actually means left. So the word sinister originates from left-handed people. How degrading is that? Sadly, left-handedness got a raw deal in ancient culture. For example, there's a tradition in India and Pakistan where eating with your left hand is viewed as disrespectful due to it being unclean. Calling someone ambisinister is particularly hurtful for lefties. 20. Left-handed inheritance. Does it follow that left-handed parents have left-handed children? There's been research done into the subject, but the results aren't conclusive. So, if being a lefty may possibly run in the family, does this mean there's a left-handed gene that's passed down? Not really. it only indicates a higher probability you'll use your left hand if someone in your bloodline did. In fact, other studies show that the majority of children from left-handed parents are actually right-handed. This gives us a pretty confusing picture when it comes to left-handedness and genetics. Experts like to look beyond genes, studying an individual's personal development and external factors such as their environment. Ultimately, you have to consider all things when trying to answer the question. Good luck, scientists. 19. Neurotic behavior. Is being left-handed a sign of having psychological problems? Of course not. In historical times, however, they used to come out with these weird ideas. Little ones were encouraged to avoid using their left side, and if you did, you were treated as a neurotic basket case. Today, we think of left-handedness less as a problem and more of an individual thing. The population of the world may be overwhelmingly right-handed, yet that doesn't mean lefties don't process information the same way. They just do it on the opposite side, which is perfectly normal. 18. Lefties and language. Here's one cool thing lefties do that right-handed people don't. According to a study from 2021, it appears left-handed people process language with both sides of their brain. A right-handed person will largely use the left hemisphere of the brain for this, whereas left-handers can spread the work out from one side to the other. This is fascinating, because it means while lefties perform tasks with a dominant left hand, they use all of their brain to hear language. The findings don't apply to every left-handed person, but even so, the information is potentially a game changer. This research could alter our understanding of human brain chemistry. 17. Scissors. Lefties usually aren't fans of scissors. Most commercially produced scissors are designed for right-handed people, and many of you will know how awkward it is to try and use those with the opposite hand. You're forced to operate them the wrong way around, applying the pressure upside down and making a bad cut. The blade might even cut you, making it no fun at all. That's a well-known fact, but here's a lesser one. Did you know the first scissors made for lefties were released in the late 60s? Bearing in mind these tools date back to ancient Egypt. That is quite a wait. 16. Night owls. Being left-handed turns you into a night owl? The risk is seen as low, but it is there, according to a study which came out in 2011. Why is sleep disruption like insomnia experienced more by lefties than righties? Left-handed people may regulate their body clock differently due to the way they use the two hemispheres of their brain. The left and the right are responsible for different activities, however, lefties seem to divide things up more equally between the two. This could affect the circadian rhythm, which is how our brain and body prepare us for sleep. Another factor thought to play a role is social pressure. Lefties feel excluded because most people in the world are right-handed, and this might contribute to general anxiety in some cases, creating tension in the bedroom. This story has fueled some discussion among experts and the wider public. However, I should mention it's more of a theory than a solid fact. It is interesting anyway, so why not explore it? 15. Unclean. The left hand is a dirty hand, and no amount of scrubbing will change that. This sounds like an irrational statement, but incredibly, it's a thing for traditionalists living in certain parts of the world. Asian, Middle Eastern, and African cultures believed the left hand was only good for hygienic purposes, doing all the stuff considered unclean, from toilet business to taking out the trash. If you were born left-handed, you had a problem. People felt enormous pressure to go against their natural instinct and use their right hand instead. The stigma they experienced was deeply painful, and the impact is still felt centuries later. 14. Kanga paws. Now, I've focused a lot on humans, but what about our animal friends? They too can be left and right-handed, or to be more accurate, south or north pawed. We know the kangaroo favors its left side, thanks to a 2015 study. This looked at examples like the red kangaroo and the eastern gray kangaroo. This actually makes them similar to us, in that we've both learned to walk on two legs and developed what our hands and feet do in the same way. 13. Injuries. Living in a world that's predominantly right-handed is a challenge for lefties. It can also be pretty dangerous. Having to use tools that aren't designed for left-handers can lead to injuries. The same goes for stuff like driving a car. A 2017 survey conducted by a car insurance company found 28% of left-handed drivers received speeding tickets, compared to 19% of right-handers. It isn't all bad news, though, as the survey also found southpaws were more likely to pass their test the first time. Whether it's a positive or negative, lefties need to take extra care when driving right-handed vehicles. Being coordinated is vital, and by operating a vehicle in the opposite way your brain is telling you to, you open yourself up to risks. 12. Multitasking. Need a bunch of jobs done at the same time? Well, you might want to ask a left-handed person. Because they delegate tasks more evenly between the left and right brain hemispheres, lefties are thought to be better at multitasking. Of course, this isn't 100% verified. It's more of a speculative thing, but the more you look into it, the more interesting it gets. Everyone has a part of their brain called the corpus callosum, which is basically a tangle of wiring joining the hemispheres together. There's an old scientific idea that left-handers have a bigger corpus callosum, which means they're more flexible when completing assignments and such. As I say, this is an old idea that has since been challenged. Until we know the truth, it's an intriguing question to ask. Do lefties multitask more effectively than righties? Maybe you have some thoughts. Let me know in the comments. 11. Twins. Twins are typically the same. At least, that's how it seems. There can, however, be some important differences, such as which hand they use. A pattern has been observed when studying twins where one of the twins tends to be left-handed. So if one twin is left-handed, that means the other twin is going to be right-handed, right? Well, in some cases, yes. But this is more speculation than solid fact, and there's still a lot of work to do in this area. Twins with opposite hand preferences aren't exactly the norm, with many variations seen in different people. This brings us back to the question of how far genes go in influencing left and right-handed babies. Do the twins turn out like they do because of their family's biology, or because of external things like the circumstances of their birth or who they meet as they grow up? 10. Cats and dogs. The animal kingdom is more democratic than us when it comes to preferences. Humanity is mainly right-handed, while creatures such as our cats and dogs have more variation. This doesn't apply across the board, however. Take female cats, for example, who are predominantly right-pawed. Things get literally wilder when you look at the other animals. You can tell a squirrel's preference by checking the acorns they leave on the ground. The directions they've been stripped reveals what paw they like to use. You need to watch who you listen to, though. There are some made-up stories out there, like the idea that all polar bears are left-handed. 9. Stroke recovery. A stroke is a devastating and life-changing thing. But can you survive one better as a southpaw? Let's look at what happens during a stroke before we go into the details. When a stroke hits you, it attacks a specific part of your brain by restricting blood flow. This means the more flexible your brain is, the more hopeful the outcome. Right-handers are known to rely on fixed points in the brain for certain activities. If the stroke disables these parts, you lose some abilities altogether and need to relearn them. Lefties, on the other hand, unintended, are thought to use their brains in a more diverse way. The lefty brain could theoretically reorganize itself faster and more effectively, reducing the impact a stroke has on a person's cognitive abilities. 8. Witchcraft. Being left-handed didn't help in the days of witch hunters. During the Middle Ages, it wasn't uncommon for women to be branded as witches. These accusations could be malicious in nature and connected more to personal grudges than genuine evidence of evil doing. If you had beef with your neighbor and they decide to call in the witch finder, a serious investigation begins involving trials and other ordeals. Ironically, some of these ordeals, like torture, proved fatal. But that was seen as okay because it meant you were a mortal human and not a witch, so good job. If you happen to be left-handed, that only added to your worries due to the left hand being traditionally associated with all things bad. The investigators also used to focus on things like moles to determine someone's witchy status. Put simply, people in the Middle Ages were weird. 7. Anglo Saxon origins. Here's an interesting question. We're talking about left-handed people, but where did the word left actually come from? It dates back to Anglo Saxon times in Britain, which covered 410 to 1066. Was it complimentary? No, it sure wasn't. The very first spelling was Lyft, and it referred to someone who was clumsy, deceitful, and most insulting of all, disabled. Yes, people with disabilities were viewed very differently. The main point is that the leftward direction was inherently stupid and evil, according to the Anglo Saxons. Over time, the word developed into the left we know today, and the historical meaning has been left in the trash can of history where it belongs. 6. The power of the left hand. While left-handedness was frowned upon in many parts of the world in ancient times, it wasn't always seen as a bad thing. Cultures based in the Andes, together with the Inuits, the Celts, and the Buddhists, thought the left hand was a powerful thing. One civilization from the Andes, the Incas, associated the left hand with magic. The Celts drew links between the left side and fertility. Buddhism regarded the left hand as bearing wisdom. Meanwhile, the Aztecs took things further with their own group of warriors who were selected precisely because they were southpaws. It's also worth mentioning that the ancient cultures who shunned left-handedness did see some positive things in it also. Ancient Roman priests thought an eastward, or left direction, signified good omens, though they changed their mind later after being influenced by the Greeks. 5. Mental health. Do lefties experience more mental health issues than their right-handed counterparts? There isn't conclusive proof this is the case. However, experts have explored the question over the decades. Their work focused not only on left-handed, but also ambidextrous people. Going back to the 70s and 80s, studies revealed what appeared to be a link between lefties and the ambidextrous with autism, dyslexia, stuttering, and other conditions and disorders. A significant percentage of left-handed children taking part in a 2008 study were said to have DCD. This is a developmental disorder that affects someone's motor skills. Some investigations have even highlighted a potential link to schizophrenia, though that's by no means a proven fact. I should repeat, these details are attention-grabbing, but so far a definitive diagnosis hasn't been made. On the plus side, there's a theory that left-handed people are better at managing mental decline, though again, there isn't a scientific consensus on this one. 4. Fast reactions. Southpaws beat everyone at sports? I wouldn't go that far. However, there's some evidence to suggest they do have an advantage. In 2017, a team of scientists reported that going left may guarantee success in high-speed sports such as baseball and table tennis. Why does this happen? Well, it's all to do with instinct, and lefties working harder against their right-handed opponents. It's thought a right-handed player is more in sync with another right-handed player, meaning they aren't so receptive to what a southpaw does. Righties can anticipate and react to people with the same preference more rapidly, and less so with the lefty. The experts also speculate that left-handed people have quicker reflexes because they know the world is kind of against them, by which I mean right-handed people usually outnumber them. This boosts their sense of competitiveness and the need to succeed. 3. Slanted lettering. You may have noticed that the handwriting of some left-handed people is slanted backwards. Why? Well, you need to watch a southpaw write to find out. Writing something by hand involves moving from left to right. In English, unless you're doing, Hebrew or other languages like that. If you're right-handed, your hand stays on that side of the pen and doesn't come into contact with the ink. With lefties, however, they have little option but to smear the ink because the pen goes first with the hand trailing after. One way around this is to write letters with a backward slant. It's more time-consuming in a way, but saves on mess and possible ink staining on clothes and, your hand. Tilting the paper to the right helps also as your hand is under the writing line. Now, we mostly use keyboards and touchscreens to communicate these days, though traditional handwriting is always good for adding a personal touch. Old school letter writing hasn't gone out of style just yet. 2. Music. Who knew there was a connection between a left-handed person's brain and the way they interpret music? In 2024, a study was published exploring how left-learning musicians process audio stimulus. It turns out, being a southpaw can be great for making music. because their brains are structured to understand the sound more effectively. What does that mean? Basically, the auditory cortex, where your brain does all its grooving out, features an area called Heschl's gyrus. This area is pretty important, as it's where sound is processed initially. Now, left-handed people are believed to have more gray matter in Heschl's gyrus, which provides more meat in the cerebral sandwich, if you will. A meatier brain means greater power and could indicate that lefties are better at listening to and appreciating music than righties. Oh, I like listening to music. 1. International Left-Handers Day. Every group of people needs a special day to celebrate their achievements and acknowledge their hardships. And the left-handed community is no different. August 13th marks International Left-Handers Day, which was set up by the UK Left-Handers Club in 1992. This is a big deal for many of the Southpaw persuasion. It's also useful for right-handers who don't know the history of their left-handed friends. From Leonardo da Vinci to John McEnroe, from Marie Curie to Angelina Jolie, the number of well-known lefties may come as a surprise to you. Left-handers are a minority in the general population of the world, but they certainly know how to leave their mark. And that's all I have for you today. But you know what time it is. Trivia time. Scramble the word left and you have TEFL, which is a famous organization, but what does TEFL stand for? Is it A, territorial engagement in foreign lands, B, teaching English as a foreign language, C, theoretical exploration of fragmented lysocomes, or D, terrain exposure in frozen landscapes? Let me know your answers in the comments below, and if you want to know more about left-leaning individuals, our video on the struggles all left-handed people know to be true is available to watch right here. And as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content, and I'll catch you next time. Totally forgot to do that at the beginning of the list, but I'm doing it now. I'll see you guys later. I'm going to wave with my left hand since it feels right. See ya.